Hello again, and welcome back. What may be our last broadcast of the evening. It's starting to look that way. We've heard from the President of the Parliament in the last few minutes, Roberta Metsola, and she has said the centre has held, and our task now is to create a Parliament, I paraphrase slightly, that reflects that. And she's right, isn't she, Dick? In the end, the centre has held.
Well, it has, yeah. It actually has. And I'd say we've been saying it all night, all the projections of a massive flood to the far right, wherever that is, hasn't happened. And she's correct, her analysis is correct. And the analysis earlier by Manfred Weber is correct, that they have more than, they've plenty of space, and it looks very good for the centre.
Yes, I mean, just to recap, the EPP, the centre-right party, the Christian Democrat Party, if you like, they are once again the winners. They're clearly reaching out to their traditional allies when they need allies, who are the Socialists and Renew, the Liberals, maybe to the Greens, probably not to the ECR, the party to the right of the EPP. Metsola is, of course, part of the EPP. So she's almost certainly heading for another 2.5 years as President of the Parliament. And Ursula von der Leyen, the EPP's lead candidate, she's almost certainly heading for another 5 years as Commission President, although there's a bit more to be sorted before we can be definite about that.
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, if you look at the overall, I mean, it looks very much like the same. There is between EPP, S&D and Renew, there seems to be plenty of seats to assure that. There will, of course, be a lot of horse trading for who gets the other positions, but there hasn't been. One thing that is certain, looking at the latest figure that we have, we only preliminary figures from Italy, I mean, certainly Meloni has done well, but the reality of it is, I don't think that she had the bargaining chips that we were talking about earlier on in the day. So it's all very much pointing to more or less the same.
Yes, interesting though, for what is coming in from Italy, that indeed Meloni's party, the Brothers of Italy, has done well. She, of course, has been modifying her position, and is seen essentially as now a pro-EU political leader, whereas her coalition partner, who is in the League, who has maintained his anti-EU rhetoric, he's one of the big losers, it would seem.
Well, in the long term, sometimes when you actually change your position, you can lose your base, and that's looking a long term ahead. But you're right. As things stand, she's held her position. Her colleague has her.
Matteo Salvini, I should name check.
Salvini, yes, has lost or is losing, But I think her real bargaining chip at this point, or up to this point, has been where will she jump on the issue of the Spitzen candidate on the Commission President, and it's very clear that bargaining chip is now diminished.
Now, Italy, of course, the last country to finish voting, one of the first countries to vote, Ireland, they voted on Friday, but Ireland has a very democratic electoral system, but it does take a little bit of time to count. And so, in fact, all three counts in the three constituencies in Ireland, they've all now paused for the night with no one elected. But I think it's fair to say that there are still some interesting bits of information starting to come your way, Dave.
There are, yeah, and I'm beginning to. I mean, it's really quite extraordinary. Sinn Féin had a very bad day, had a bad day yesterday in the in the local elections, the councillor elections. It looks as if they're having a very sticky day. I was saying to you earlier, they were in for one seat in each constituency and possibly a fourth seat. I'm not so sure that I would say that that's in the bag. Certainly Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are doing well, that's for certain. And what is interesting, obviously, something from my point of view, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, they're neck and neck, Fianna Fáil slightly ahead on the tallies that we have. How it's going to turn out, it will be interesting. The independents in Ireland are going to have a hugely positive day. If it turns out if the transfers go the right way, and there's two ifs there, it could be quite a surprising result. But it seems like Fianna Fáil will have 3 seats. It seems like Fine Gael will have 3 seats. Either could have a 4th seat. I think that might be a bit. We won't know that until later. That depends on later transfers. But it doesn't look as if Sinn Féin are going to have a great election result in the European Parliament either.
No. And just stepping back finally for tonight, overall across Europe, it's not quite a final figure, but it looks like turnout was 51% averaged out across all 27 member states, which means for the second election in a row they've got over the halfway mark, but still not great, is it?
No, that's not great. Look, the reality of it is if you have a general election or an election for a European Parliament and just about half the people bother to turn up, that's not a success. That's not a success. And I mean, that is a problem. It is a problem, and it's a problem that people in this House, in the Parliament, somehow or other don't want to acknowledge. It's terribly disappointing in my view when you look at the figures. The biggest figure ever recorded in the European election was 61.99%. That was the first one when the original 6 plus Greece, the UK, Denmark and Ireland were in there. But if you actually come after that, if you come from there on in, it's been a drop, 58, 58, 56, 50, 40, and then it started, we were celebrating a big increase last year. It actually went up from 42.6% to 50.66. That meant 49% of the voters stayed home. I don't know what the final figure is tonight, but I had hoped to get that up above the mid-50s. If that's not above the mid-50s, that's a failure. It's a failure, and the European Parliament needs to look at it. And I've already done an analysis within in EU report as to why I think the people are losing faith, and I actually think it's something that we need to look at.
And of course, the big news of the night that we've all been digesting is that President Macron's seemingly extraordinary decision on the back of a very poor result for him and his party to dissolve the National Assembly in France and call a snap election. But of course he knows more people will vote in a domestic election and people will vote in a slightly different way, and so that perhaps just gives us a clue as to why he thinks it's a gamble worth taking.
I think you're right. Again, if you look at the French turnout, they've gone from the height of just 61% down to the lowest point was 40.63, and in the last election, the 2019 election, is 50.12. I understand we don't have a final figure for that, but it's probably slightly up. Maybe it isn't, but that's a bad figure. He will get a better turnout than that in an election. He's certainly taken a risk, but c'est la vie. We'll see how it turns out.
C'est la vie indeed. Well, the final figures, the final votes, we'll know tomorrow. You'll be able to read all about that in EU Reporter, and then in the coming days and weeks, the true fallout from tonight's election results will start to come to focus. Although we're starting to think that one of the people who can afford a smile herself tonight is Ursula von der Leyen, who maybe is just that little, is that little bit closer to getting a second term as
When she walked
Commissioner.
across here 15 minutes ago, which had everybody surprised. She wasn't actually smiling, but she had, I thought, a certain quiet confidence about it, and I wasn't quite sure where she was coming from, where I think she looked comfortable.
That was a walk for the benefit of the cameras, wasn't it? She a quick show of confidence and determination, which is, she can be quite an enigmatic person, I think it's fair to say.
Steely, I think.
Oh, steely for sure, yes. And I think both those qualities will come to her aid in the next few weeks. Well, on that note, as I say, more on our site tomorrow to read, to keep up to date as things start to fall into place. But actually, the big picture has kind of emerged tonight. And so on that note, good night.
Ihoa.